Well, today I've been getting stuck in with the students from the Royal Academy of Music, this fantastic program that I've put together. I've been asked to take on the role of visiting professor of modern ensembles for the Royal Academy of Music. And the first concert, at any rate, they gave me absolute carte blanche to bring in whatever I wanted to do. And so I wanted to bring in things that are very strongly identified with myself and my performing career. So hence music of Michael Tippett, Andy Akiho, Louis Andriessen, Steve Reich, and Steve Martland. Now, of course, with the exception of Michael Tippett, these are composers that I've worked very closely with. All of them have written music for me. And it's a language that I wanted to share with the students, give them opportunity to know this music, learn this style, maybe for the first time, and for them to embrace it and take it forward. So a really exciting week. I'm really enjoying the rehearsals. Well, working with the students is a fabulous experience because although at this point there is quite a large generational gap between myself and them, to me, in my mind, it doesn't seem so long since I was walking around the corridors here as a student myself, but actually it was last century and most of the students that I'm working with were not even born then. So to then bring the music that is close to me and to see it live under their fresh hands and minds is very, very uplifting, and I'm enjoying it hugely. So what happened with my initial opportunity to conduct was quite straightforward. With my group, the Colin Currie group, we had been playing several of Steve Reich's works, including drumming and music for 18 musicians. And the next step was to embrace another one of his biggies, which is the work Hallé. And this needs conducted. And with my ensemble, we don't really have the resources to bring in a big-time conductor. So this was the perfect opportunity for me to put myself forward to conduct this piece. Now, I'm gifted in that ensemble with people who are very supportive, very keen to make things work. So it was made very easy for me to stand there on the box for the first time, conducting what is regarded as quite a difficult piece, but it was made very easy for me by the fantastic musicians around me. And they've always supported me in my conducting, and it's been a fantastic start for me to start with the group and then take things elsewhere. I haven't thought too closely about the mechanics of conducting. I think for now at least, I'm in the moment, I'm reacting to what I hear, I'm trying to be the good citizen as a conductor, make things as clear as possible. There are certain conductors who have influenced me, one or two in particular that I've worked closely with. I would say particularly Marin Alsop, David Robertson, and John Storgards, three conductors that I've worked very closely with over the years. They've influenced me, although they're rather different as conductors. I think I've stolen from all of them certain of their gestures, particularly to do with giving cues and showing things as clearly as possible. The thing is with Steve's music is whether I'm playing it, whether I'm playing vibraphone in quartet or marimba, music for 18 musicians, or conducting Hallé or conducting the desert music, I don't really have a strongly different approach in my mind. So it's always to do with the pacing of the music, the control of the music, and the maximum release of the core emotion of the music. So for me, it's all good stuff. In it comes, whether I'm playing the xylophone or conducting, it's all got that goal to release this music in a way that is controlled, but also allowing it to shine. The first time I ever came across Steve Reich's name was when somebody brought in to the Edinburgh Youth Orchestra the single sheet page of his clapping music. So I would have been 11 or 12 years old. And then they have an informal concert at the EYO every year. And so I tried to play this with a friend of mine. And I'm sure, of course, necessarily very badly. But it was my first time seeing his music, and my curiosity was immediately alerted. And then, of course, this goes back to the era of obtaining music took a while. If you wanted a recording of his music, you had to order the CD. So my pocket money would be deployed to get hold of these recordings as they arrived. Music for 18 was obtained quite quickly because I could see there was lots of percussion in that piece. And then the other records arrived, Tehilim, pieces like that became mainstays of my student life, and myself and my housemates all relished these pieces, and we'd play them at full volume during wild parties in the student years. So this was quite interesting. Clapping music is a good one to do. I always like to put it at the front of concerts, and especially if we're doing a festival of his music. I think it's always great to start with that. Something gorgeous about the simplicity of two musicians taking the stage. They're not even holding any instruments, nor will they play any. It's just the simple fact of playing these hand claps. So clapping music I've played dozens of times, and with Steve very many times, on very many occasions, in all different continents, all around the world, Japan, Europe, all different kinds of places. It's been a real honor, and every time I've walked on stage with him to play clapping music, it's this moment where I just have to pinch myself and say, can this really be happening to me? But it's how it rolled. There must be said that when I was a student here at the Royal Academy, I recorded a debut album for EMI, and on that album was my first shot at recording a Steve Reich piece, which is his Nagoya marimbas. And that piece for two marimbas has been a staple of my repertoire ever since. And that piece is probably the piece of his that I've performed the most. And that recording is played non-stop on the streaming channels. I always look in horror as I see how many times it's been performed and online, and it's so many times that one could never count. I first met Steve Reich in 2011, and we were performing drumming at the South Bank Centre, and all of a sudden it was told to me that Steve Reich would be attending. He was in Germany attending to other matters, and his schedule had opened up, allowing him to come to our concert. It made me very nervous because I knew that we played drumming very differently to not only his group, but any other group I'd ever heard playing the piece. And there was no time for him to come to the sound check. He was just straight into the concert. And I was honestly rather uncertain as to how his reaction would be. But we had a meeting before the concert, and I was completely caught off guard by how kind of charming he was. And he was telling me how happy he was to meet me. And I was like, no, you're Steve Reich. I'm happy to meet you. But it seemed to be that he knew so much about my career, and he knew so much about all the repertoire I've been playing. He had so many questions for me. I hardly got a chance to ask him anything. And then we played the concert, and he came on stage and he was crying. He had tears rolling down his face. And I thought, well, this could be quite good, or it could be the end of everything. But fortunately, he was elated and ecstatic, and he could see that we were playing it differently, but he could hear that it was working exceptionally well. I think with the conducting that I'm doing, the impetus for me is to gain that proximity to that repertoire that I feel so strongly about. So I'm being very careful to stick with the things that I really know well and understand that language. And it's the desire at this stage to get into that material. And of course, as a conductor, you can galvanize a lot of people very quickly and make a difference with that repertoire. And so whether it's the music of Steve Reich or Louis Andriessen or Steve Martland, these are rather obvious examples, but of course they're people that I have been very, very close with, and I feel very strongly about how that music can sound. And it's not only that I have my own feelings about it, but of course, as the performance practice of that music develops, I feel that I do have something to add to that music and to elevate it, I hope, into a new and interesting level going forward. I think I would like to go very gradually as a conductor and move always in circles that make sense as naturally as possible. So, for example, the Hallé Orchestra asked me to curate a 3-concert Steve Reich festival for them. And this was such a joyous occasion, very, very uplifting and extremely exciting concerts. And they immediately said, well, will you come and curate and conduct a Philip Glass cycle? So that's 1 season later. This is what I find myself doing with them, is a huge Philip Glass project. And so I think it's with composers like this, we gradually add one voice at a time, and let's rule nothing out at this point.